My name is Mohammed. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Somali community in Lewiston. Some of you sitting here today, we voted for you. We elected you to protect our community interests, not creating division or go after one elected member from our community. If this narrative continues, our community will be forced to re-examine our relationship or political relationship, including our relationship with the Democratic Party and who will be voting in the future. This is not a threat.
So this Somali probe is getting crazy. So now we move over to Maine. And in Maine, you have, let me say this first, right? Because we like to say like a lot of W folks are racist, especially up in a place like Maine, right? You got some Black African immigrants up there, and they're getting into power, and they're being put there by W folks, right? W folks is allowing these Black folks to come in there and thrive, right? So now you have this man, Imam Osman, right? Imam Osman, he ran for city council Ward 5, right? Ward 5 in Lewiston, Maine. But this was the problem. He didn't live there. He created some fraudulent address so he could run for office. And he ran for office and eventually won. W folks put him in there. Now, mind you, this guy, they say this guy has some gun charges in the past. He already came into office lying. He already came into office scamming. So now he's been forced to step down.
Some city leaders in Lewiston are calling on a school board member and newly elected city councilor to resign, saying he's become a distraction.
That's right. This after a grand jury indicted Iman Osman on criminal charges. As CBS 13's Brad Rogers reports, the case allegedly involves stolen guns.
Prosecutors accuse Lewiston Councilor-elect Iman Osman of theft by unauthorized taking and receiving stolen property involving stolen firearms from 2 estates. We reached out to Osman and his attorney. Neither are responding publicly to the allegations or calls by some to resign. On Thursday, 4 school committee members urged Osman to resign, saying the last thing Lewiston needs is a school committee member facing stolen gun charges, pulling us into the national spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Mayor Carl Shaleen also called for his resignation. He says while he is entitled to the presumption of innocence, this matter has become an unwelcome distraction from the essential business of governing. Osman was elected to represent District 5 near downtown Lewiston. We asked people in the district, do you think Iman Osman should step down from the school committee and city council? Everyone we spoke with said yes.
It does kind of upset me. If he's doing stuff like that, he doesn't belong in office.
It sets a real bad image in an area that already has a real bad image. I think he should be removed, and then if he's found innocent, then possibly reinstated.
The school committee says it does not have the authority to force the resignation of an elected official. The committee chair says the decision to resign belongs solely to the individual elected to the seat. There's also a question as to the residency of Mr. Osman. He lists his legal address as 210 Blake Street here in the heart of District 5. But since a drug raid last year, the building has been condemned.
It's funny that he says he lives there because I don't see anybody going in and out of there. There's never lights on, nothing like that. If he lives there, he must be invisible.
In a 5-4 vote, the school board voted not to investigate Osman's residency. According to the city, Osman cites threats against him for not disclosing his address. In Lewiston, Brad Rogers, CBS 13 News.
So now you have a lot of people that's speaking out in support of this man Osman, despite all his sketchy past, right? But this is the thing. This is a bad time. Now, I don't know if this man is fraudulent, a bad person. I don't know. But if they're saying that he falsified documents and he lied about his address, he got these impending gun charges, he got all this stuff going on, do you think that he should be a candidate for council member? Do you think that he should be on city council right now where you have this probe going all across America on these Somali migrants and they're uncovering things? I don't know. I don't want to just come out and just say that this man is just guilty of anything. I'm not going to be like W folks, right? But he has a lot of W folks supporting him and putting him in there. But then you have detractors. But I believe that a lot of maybe good Somalian people are caught in the middle of this political gangbanging and theater between the radical right and the radical left. They all pushing the 2030 agenda, man, right? Of all-inclusive societies, right? And the liberals are pushing all-inclusive groups. Everybody be able to live and sustain a good, healthy life without racism and all these different things. So you have W folks over there that are part of the Liberal Party putting these black people in positions, right? And they're voting them in. But this guy has a sketchy past. Then you have the other side, right? That's against all that. Make America great again, right? And they're coming up against this, man, right? And you have people that don't agree. They're talking like this.
Here I am in Lewiston, and I can't believe what I just witnessed. This guy took the oath of office saying he'd never violate the Constitution, and he just did by taking the oath. You know, I just don't get it. I don't see how something like this happens. How can someone who can't even verify his address or where he lives end up being a city councilor? Why should he be a city councilor in the city of Lewiston? Where are we? Venezuela? I mean, come on, let's get real. This kind of stuff just has to stop. For me, I'm here tonight observing and witnessing something that I never ever would have believed could happen in the United States of America. It's happening right in our own backyard in Lewiston, Maine.
So you have people that's out there, and listen, they said that he already violated his oath because he came in already lying. And like I said, the Somali community is under fire. And they already did a Minnesota state audit. And in that state audit, they uncovered over $400 million already that's been stolen, or money that's been allocated to these different groups without even full background checks, right? They already uncovered that. So now they're in Maine, and ain't no telling what they're going to uncover in Maine. They didn't even do Columbus, Ohio yet. They haven't done Seattle. And a lot of these liberals is covering this stuff up because it goes against their agenda. They have an agenda pushing this 2030 agenda, allowing all these different groups to come here. But while they're coming here, they're committing fraud and crimes, right? And they're covering this stuff up. They're just allowing it to happen. So now the other side is calling this stuff out. But this is the thing. This guy not only. So now you have the news uncovering a lot of things that's going on in Maine, man, and it's getting real ugly, man. Check this out.
Well, when NewsNation investigates, the impact can be swift and dramatic. We saw that today as shockwaves reverberated in part from a NewsNation exclusive we brought you last night. We told you about how a small community in Maine alleges that money for mass shooting victims instead went to a Somali-linked nonprofit. Well, tonight, less than 24 hours after our report aired, Lewiston City Council member Iman Osman, who is a Somali refugee, is stepping down. He didn't give a reason, but NewsNation has learned his nonprofit was one of dozens that received some of that money raised for these shooting victims. Not only that, it turns out Osman has 2 felony gun charges and faked his address. NewsNation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has been digging into this and joins me now. You broke this news last night. How did this unfold today?
It's been wild, Elizabeth, and it's still actually unfolding. There's an emergency city council meeting happening right now in the building behind me. They're trying to figure out what exactly to do. So just to reset, Lewiston had one of the worst mass shootings in our country's history. The country rallied behind, raised a bunch of money, over $6 million. There was the Maine Community Foundation. They promised everybody that all of the monies were going to go to the victims and their families. Well, it turns out that about 30%, 1.9 million, went not to the families and victims, but went to nonprofits. And we found that at least 9 of them were immigrant-focused. At least 7 of them were Somali-linked nonprofits. Now, one of those nonprofits is the Lewiston Auburn Youth Network. They received $65,000. The Somali man who runs it, Imam Osman, sworn in as city councilor this week. He stepped down this morning, and so we've done some digging. He's facing felony gun charges. He has pled not guilty to that. He ran for city council here using an address that is a condemned chicken restaurant. I went there and looked inside earlier. This is his nonprofit received the $65,000 from the Lewiston Victims Fund when survivors like Jennifer Zenka, shot twice, received a mere $32,000 and couldn't pay for her surgeries. Take a listen.
It didn't really hit me and really upset me until I was in a position with a $93,000 hospital bill that I couldn't cover.
What do you think happened here?
They raised money for nonprofits on the backs of 18 people who were murdered, 13 people who were shot, and 136 people who escaped their attempted murder. They used that to raise money for nonprofits.
In Minnesota, they're stealing from the taxpayers. In Maine, they're stealing from the taxpayers and victims of a massacre.
So why they received this money is just disturbing. Why this man's nonprofit received these monies is a big, giant question mark. Why he was even put on the city council here raises even more questions. When, Elizabeth, I went to the city clerk today. It took me 2 seconds to get his bond sheet. Back to you.
2 felony gun charges at a fake address that's really a condemned chicken restaurant. Rich, you can't make it up.
So the real question now has to be asked: when you uncovering all this Somali fraud and all the stuff that's going on, what is the real agenda of the Democratic Party? There has to be a probe now on the Democratic Party and what they've been doing across America and been allowing. Because there's a lot of things that are being uncovered, and we know that the radical right, they have their issues as well. But right now under the microscope is these liberals. And like I said, I don't care for neither one of them. But if you have these immigrants coming into power and they're doing state audits and they're finding out that documents have been falsified, people are covering their behinds. And these are W folks behind the scenes that was receiving kickbacks from allowing these groups to get money, right? These Somali groups. And then you allow a guy to get on the city council and he's working for his constituents. He's working specifically for his Somali people. Right? He get on city council so he can continue to have funds allocated to the Somalis of Lewiston. And then you have residents there that's saying, hey, we was part of a massacre and I can't even afford to pay my medical bills. We didn't get the money that we should have gotten. But these immigrants are coming here and they're getting it. That's the problem. And you're having the same issues going on in Columbus, the same issues going on in Seattle, and maybe untapped in other cities that's not even talked about yet. All of this is happening under the Democratic regime. There's a lot of things that I can cover about the Republicans, but that's not this video. I've done that in the past. Plenty of them. Right now, we're talking about what's going on under the watchful eye of these liberals. And why is it happening? And there needs to be a major probe. A lot of things need to be uncovered with these immigrants coming in and why they made things so comfortable for these immigrants and how they can become a larger voting bloc. These conversations need to be had, because when they're doing these audits, they're finding fraud and they're finding that government officials was complicit in allowing this stuff to happen. So Imam Osman is not just a problem. He's part of a major problem. He's part of a bigger problem that's now being uncovered. Because who allowed him to be what he became in America? Other W folks. But y'all gotta let me know what y'all think about this. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV. Leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time. Peace.